are talking about becoming friends with yourself. So, this is a very important topic. And perhaps you would have noticed that, at times you actually haven't been that friendly towards yourself. In fact, perhaps there's even been times where you've been a bit unfriendly. And this is, this is problematic for us because we can, cause ourselves a lot of harm when we're not friendly towards ourselves. And when I say friendly, what I mean is the way we talk to ourselves, the things we say. So you might have noticed that at times you're actually kind of mean and you give yourself a really hard time around, the things that you think you should be doing versus the things that you are doing. And, that all of these shoulds, these expectations that we have of ourselves about not doing things perfectly or not doing things to a particular standard, we can give ourselves a really hard time about that. And that is actually quite hurtful. It is actually quite hurtful. If you actually reflect on some of the things that you might be saying to yourself, like, God, that was so stupid. Why did I say that? Or I've got to do that better next time. Or if only I'd done this, then I would have gotten this. And, that's actually really hurtful. So, if you were to think about how your friends speak to you, or even how you speak to your friends, you probably wouldn't say that to them. And you probably wouldn't want them to speak to you that way. And yet, for some reason, we think that it's okay to talk to ourselves like this. And that because we're saying it in the quiet of our own mind, we're not saying it out loud to somebody else, and somebody else isn't saying it out loud to us, that somehow that makes it okay and that there'll be no impact. But I want to suggest to you today that actually the impact is very significant. It's actually far greater than if somebody else said it to you. The reason is that if someone else says something not very nice to you, it's fleeting, right? It doesn't happen on repeat. They might have a one-off comment here or there, and you're like, wow, that was hurtful. And, maybe you have trouble letting it go, but it doesn't happen continuously. The trouble with our self-talk is that these thoughts are happening all the time on repeat every single day. And if you actually start to observe your inner dialogue, what you probably notice is that you say the same things to yourself all the time. In fact, research shows that we have thousands of thoughts every day and that most of them are the same ones. So we want to be really careful what we're saying to ourselves because not only are those thoughts hurtful, they're judgmental, they're critical. So we're actually hurting ourselves every day. This isn't a form of, self-compassion we're showing to ourselves. This is self-harm. We're just not realizing that we're doing it. And this really holds us back. It really holds us back because you will become your thoughts. You become your thoughts. How does that happen? Because in your unconscious mind or your subconscious mind, all of those stories and all of those thoughts that are replayed on a continuous basis every single day become beliefs. They become the stories of your life. Things like, oh, it's so hard to get into a relationship. It's so hard to meet a decent man. It's so hard, to have a successful relationship. It's so hard to live with somebody. All of these ideas that we might have about, relationships. What about money? Oh, so hard to make a lot of money. I have to work so hard to, earn a living. There's a lot of limiting ideas and limiting beliefs. And those are reinforced every day with all of these subtle thoughts about yourself, all of these subtle thoughts about yourself that really, at the end of the day, they roll into these beliefs. And these beliefs become very ingrained in your subconscious mind, which is actually doing 80% of the navigating in your life. It's like an iceberg. There's 80% below the water. That's your subconscious mind, which you are not aware of. And the 20% is your conscious mind, which you're aware of. So, how do we access this subconscious mind, which is really navigating your life? We have to do it through our language. And so it's very important that you start to become aware of your language. What are you saying to yourself on a day-to-day basis? Your inner dialogue. And you want to start catching these thoughts just like we do when we're meditating. This is exactly the same process, just like when you're meditating. You are noticing the thoughts and you don't engage them. You notice the thought and you don't engage the story. Otherwise, they become like roots of the tree. So, the roots of a plant or a tree, they go really deep down into the soil. I know this because I just uprooted a very large plant on the weekend. And my God, it was hard to get out of that pot. It was a pretty big one. It was like this thick. And those roots were so entwined down there. And I had to really yank on it to get it out. And what it reminded me of was these inner beliefs and how ingrained they become and how strong the roots are of these beliefs about ourselves and these beliefs about our life, about how things are difficult, how it's hard, how I can't have what I want, how I can't have my needs met. These are generally what all the beliefs are sort of centered around. Body. Oh, if only I looked like this, then this. If only I could be this, then I could have this in my life. All these complex equivalents. We're waiting for all of these things. And they're all tied into what we say to ourselves. And most of those thoughts are simply unfriendly. They are simply unfriendly and they become this sort of secret sabotage. But it's not really sabotage, although you may feel like you are sabotaging yourself. In a way, all your mind is doing, your unconscious mind or your subconscious mind, all it's doing is navigating you towards your beliefs. So if you believe that you're not good enough, that you'll never meet anyone, or that it's really hard to make money, or that only when you lose those 5 kilos will you be happy, your unconscious mind goes, okay. It doesn't distinguish between right and wrong, good and bad, true and false. It just believes it completely unconditionally and it goes, okay. And then it starts navigating you towards that. So say, for example, you go, I really want to lose these 5 kilos. And yet on the other hand, you're like, oh, but I really want that chocolate cake. I think I'll just have that chocolate cake today because I feel so tired and that really stressful thing happened and I feel so emotional and maybe it's that time of the month. And so you make an excuse. You make an excuse about why you can have it. And so there's an inner conflict that's going on where on the one hand, you really want this result, say lose 5 kilos. And yet on the other hand, there's some kind of conflicting belief inside that goes, oh, but I really want this other thing that is in complete conflict with that. So your subconscious mind is getting these messages which goes, go left, go right, go left, go right. And guess what happens when that happens, when there's that inner conflict? You know what happens. You get overwhelmed, you don't do anything. You actually just stay stuck. And this is all your subconscious mind is doing. It is simply navigating you towards your beliefs. But if the beliefs are conflicting, you don't get the results or you find it really hard and life feels really hard. So how do we change this? We have to become aware of our dialogue. We have to start being friendly with ourselves. And this is why the mind isn't trying to sabotage you. It is simply navigating you towards familiarity. And the familiarity is the things that you keep saying to yourself, the stories that you keep making up about yourself, about why life is hard, or why things take longer than you think that they should, or why you seem to be chasing your tail, or why this person is not right for you, or why that job is so difficult, or a million stories. But all of these things are just creating a level of safety because you keep saying them to yourself over and over again, or in different forms. They might sound slightly different, but actually they roll up into these really core beliefs. And a lot of these core beliefs are about things to do with, feeling alone, or feeling somehow not good enough, or feeling unloved or abandoned, or somehow you are not going to have your needs met. This is very childhood, very primal things that go all the way back to childhood. So we want to start to uproot these very ingrained beliefs. And this starts with you taking a view of becoming friends with yourself. Take the view that you want to speak to yourself not only the way that you want to be spoken to by others, but the way that you treat others. I'm sure you don't say these things to others that you probably say to yourself on a day-to-day basis. Like, geez, that really wasn't good enough. You really should have done that better. You wouldn't say that to a friend. You would actually be encouraging them. You know what you'd focus on? You'd probably find all the things that they're really good at, and then you'd focus on that instead. So instead of focusing on the gap or the part that or that they think didn't go well, you'd focus on what did go well. Oh, so you did that part so well. You're doing such a good job. You're really giving it all you can. You're doing the best you can today. You'd find some way of being encouraging and compassionate to that person. Instead of saying, oh, geez, yeah, you did all those 90% of those things well, but that 10%, you really need to up your game there. You wouldn't say that to someone, but that's how you might be talking to yourself. And this is where it becomes very harmful. And instead of being loving towards ourselves and creating a very compassionate, loving relationship towards ourselves, instead what happens is that you can create a very harmful, hurtful, judgmental, and critical relationship with yourself. And that is a recipe for suffering your entire life. It is a recipe for suffering. So instead of those, harmful, judgmental, critical thoughts that you might be having towards yourself on a day-to-day basis, you want to see if you can start to accept yourself instead. How do we do this? 1 second, a little bit of water. How do we start to accept ourselves? Because perhaps some of those things that you think about yourself, you have a lot of evidence to suggest that those things are actually true. Like, for example, well, I know that if I lost these last 5 kilos, then I would feel better. And that might be true. So how do you stop setting yourself up and start accepting yourself as you are today? Because really, in order to get to the place where you want to be, which is how you think you'll feel when you lose those 5 kilos, how you think you'll feel so much happier, you'll feel lighter, you'll feel free. Maybe then you'll meet that partner, or somehow your relationship will be more successful, or because you're more comfortable in your body, you'll be able to wear those clothes. And therefore, when you wear those clothes, that'll make you feel like this. And then that'll make you more sexy, or you'll have more intimacy with your partner, or you'll be able to attract a better partner. All of these things, are probably all related, but they're all in the future. They're all in the future. So you're setting yourself up to have this bar set here in the future, which your happiness then is dependent upon something in the future. It's not right now, it's something in the future. Or maybe you're thinking about, oh God, if I didn't eat that chocolate cake, or if I didn't eat all those carbs, or, all of those, high fat blah blahs, whatever, then today I'd feel so much better. Trouble with that, again, that's something that's in the past. It's not right now. It's the mind again is being focused on the past or focused on the future. In order to accept ourselves right now, which is the only place where you're ever going to experience happiness, is actually in this moment. It is now, now, now. It is not yesterday or last week or last year, and it will not be tomorrow, next week, or next year. Everything you want to experience in this lifetime, your happiness, your peace, your joy, your calm, all of those feelings that you want to feel are all available to you right now in this moment. But it starts with accepting this moment. And it starts with accepting yourself as you are today. And in order to do that, we need to stop the judgment and we need to stop the criticism and we need to stop setting ourselves up that only when this happens can I have those feelings. Only when I meditate will I X. Only when I lose the weight will I feel blah or will I get so and so. Only when I have this much money can I be happy. Well, that's a total setup of the mind. That is a recipe for suffering because you will just find that you continuously move the goalposts. The moment you get one of those things, the mind goes, oh, what's next? Oh, what about that? Oh, well, what about that? It is a never-ending cycle of craving. And that craving is this craving of the mind that we've talked about, where the mind is always looking for something more. It is wanting to cling on to something. It's the desire that arises. But that desire is always about the future or about somehow if we could have just changed this thing in the past, then I wouldn't be suffering. I wouldn't be hurting right now in this present moment. But that's not relevant to right now because right now you're here in this meditation class, you're listening to this. None of those stories are real. They're all just imaginary ideas. So to be able to accept ourselves as we are right now is what gives you the happiness. And what you're able to appreciate about yourself in this moment, how well you are doing in this moment, the fact that you are even here today listening to this class, the fact that you have a roof over your head, that you have clothes, you probably have a job. Even if you don't have a job, you're probably not sleeping on the street. You have a family. Perhaps they're quite supportive. You have friends. Your life is actually amazing. And so we want to start appreciating all the aspects of our lives that are really good. You get to see the sun every day. You're probably living in, a very nice place in the world where it is actually quite safe. Okay, granted, we're all dealing with COVID, but you're probably not worried that someone is gonna, walk into your house and shoot you, or that you can't get the food that you need because you probably have a credit card where you can go to the shop. You have money in the bank. So actually your life is quite safe. You can take measures to keep yourself safe in this unusual time that we're all in, but you have the resources and the tools to enable that. A lot of people don't have that. So we want to start to recognize all the aspects of our lives that are really going well. We want to become friends with those aspects and start to embrace all of those aspects of our lives externally and internally. So we want to start generating what I like to call radical self-compassion. It is radical because it doesn't even allow for a little bit of judgment. It doesn't even allow for a little bit of criticism. It's so radical that every time one of those judgmental or critical thoughts arises in you, you notice it straight away and you simply don't engage it. And instead, what you're doing is you're embracing yourself. You're embracing the fact that you have a body, you have all of your limbs, you have a functioning brain. You are embracing all the amazing qualities about yourself. You're starting to talk to yourself in a way that you want to be spoken to, that you would speak to somebody else. And maybe those ways are very gentle. Perhaps they're very soft. I'm really doing the best I can right now. That was so amazing, the way that I was able to complete all of those tasks yesterday. I did really well in that meeting, with so and so yesterday, or I really showed up for that friend, or it was so great that I just sat down and I did this meditation, or that I went to that exercise class, or I just went for a walk. Anything. All the little things about yourself. You want to start attuning to yourself and start embracing all the little things about you and start noticing and encouraging yourself with very gentle, kind language. Like you were talking to a child. Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. You just drew that little doodle. God, that's amazing. Well done. You did so good. I actually want you to start talking to yourself like that. And I know it sounds silly, but what you're doing is you're talking to your own inner child that perhaps never got that level of encouragement, never got that level of support. And they still need that, that inner child still needs that level of compassion. And you as the adult can now provide that to yourself. You can reparent yourself and provide this level of support and compassion and kindness to yourself every day with how you speak to yourself. And when you do this, what you'll notice is your life dramatically starts to change. You start to change. How you view yourself, how you view your body, it all starts to change because you've started to change how you speak to yourself. And in your unconscious mind, you're starting to reprogram those old beliefs where you were rejecting yourself, you were abandoning yourself, you were not accepting yourself, you were not loving yourself. Those are starting to reprogram through repetition. That is how we reprogram the subconscious mind, through repetition. We have to keep doing the same thing over and over and over again until those neural pathways, the new neural pathways, start to form, and then they start to connect, and then you start to form habits. And then you naturally start to think that way. So we want to do this on a day-to-day basis, but this starts with becoming aware. It starts with becoming aware of the thoughts and becoming aware of how you're speaking to yourself. And this is where meditation is so powerful. It is so powerful because what's happening is when you're meditating, not only are you down-regulating your nervous system, so you're calming your whole nervous system down, you're going into your parasympathetic rest and digest system. When you do that, that actually allows this content of the mind, this noise of the mind, to start to settle. It starts to settle. And when the mind is quiet and it can start to settle, then we're able to access our subconscious mind. We're able to start this reprogramming when the mind is calm. But when the mind and your nervous system are continuously in fight flight, it is very difficult to reprogram the subconscious mind because you're not feeling safe. You're not feeling safe, and you're actually feeling a level of fear. And that's what those judgmental and critical feelings or thoughts actually create, a level of fear inside you, so that your fight flight system is always on and activated. And when that system is activated, the sympathetic nervous system, that is a self-protection mechanism. That is a survival mechanism. Nothing changes in your life when that nervous system, when you're operating from that sympathetic nervous system. You cannot rewire your mind. You cannot change your beliefs, which means that your behavior will be extremely difficult to change, which means the results in your life will feel unbelievably difficult. Instead, we need to start getting into parasympathetic nervous system more often. so that you're reprogramming your body and mind for relaxation, for calm, for peace. That's when the subconscious mind is open and you can start to feed it with the correct thoughts and the correct stories that are going to navigate you towards where you really want to be. Not focusing on what you don't want, but focusing on what you do want. So you're going to start to say the things in a positive way. You're going to say things to yourself about what it is that you do want. So it's, because what you focus on grows. So if everything you say is, oh, I don't want this and I don't want that, and that's so annoying and that's so frustrating, and if I could only figure this out, you want to notice that level of dialogue and you want to stop that. Instead, you want to flip that and turn that into something about what it is that you do want. Well, when I don't have this, what will I have instead? Oh, well, I'll have X, Y, and Z. I'll have blah, blah. Okay, great. And that's what you want to focus on. All the things that you do want, not the things that you don't want. So in today's meditation, we are going to practice this. We're going to practice noticing whatever arises and letting it go. And the way that we let it go is we simply don't engage. We just do not engage. We notice the thoughts arise and, oh, look at that, like an observer. Oh, that's nice. And we simply do not engage. You are not your thoughts. You are not your emotions. And you are not even your body. You are actually the observer who's noticing the thoughts, who's noticing the feelings, who's noticing the body sensations. That's who you really are. You are awareness itself, which is simply like an observer. Like, you were just standing back and you were just watching, like you're there watching a movie. And the movie of your life is all of your thoughts, all of your emotions, all of the body sensations, and they're all on this screen. And this is the screen. And you are watching this screen like you are watching a movie. You're not the movie. You are the one watching. You are not your thoughts, your body, sensations, or your emotions. You are the one observing. And this is the view that we take in the meditation. We keep practicing being the observer. And the observer just simply notices. They don't react. They're like, oh, that's nice. Like you would if you're watching a movie. Oh, that's nice. Oh, that's that. But that's not you. That's not who you are. So in today's meditation, I want you to keep returning to the breath each time you notice a thought or each time you notice an emotion arise. Keep returning your attention back to the breath. And I'll continue to direct you and to remind you of this process. And what's going to happen is that the more often you do this in meditation, so the more familiar you become with this letting go, not engaging process, what you'll start to notice is that during your days, things will arise, feelings, thoughts, body sensations will arise, and you will automatically, I noticed that and I can let that go. Oh, I'm noticing that and I'm able to not engage. The same thing will happen in your life as it does on the meditation cushion. We just practice this in meditation so that during your day, you can start to become familiar with that process, and then it starts to become a habit. It starts to become a habit of letting go. So we want to make the unfamiliar, which may be the holding, the letting go may feel very unfamiliar to you or very difficult. The only way that we can start to improve that is to become familiar with that process. We want to become familiar with the unfamiliar. And the only way we do that is through practice. We just keep doing it. And then as we do it over and over again, the mind goes, oh, yeah, I remember this. Yeah, this is familiar. And familiarity equals safety. And when I'm safe, I'm more likely to do it. Oh, yeah, that's easy. And then it becomes easy and your life starts to become easy.